Well, it's been over a year since my last cash grabbed weapons tier list, and I figured it's time for a new one. Also, I want to make it clear from the start that I'm not ranking things objectively. If I was, it would probably look something like this, and it would be boring, because these ones are up here because they're good, and these ones are down here because they're bad. Instead, I have chosen the novel approach of ranking things based on my own personal opinions, what I like about them, and what I dislike about them. Starting us off with the pistols and the 5.7. The 5.7 is the secondary of choice for people who don't want to bring a submachine gun for some reason, or they just think it looks cool and is satisfying to use. Either way, it's a reliable and sexy little firearm, and I approve. It's going into A tier. The Shrimp is the alternative for people who don't want to use the 5.7, and I'm not sure why. The ammo has the exact same damage, costs more, and it only has one extra pen, which I don't think is going to help you all that much. And the gun itself has wonkier recoil and a worse sight setup, so I don't think that's a great deal. I'm going to put it into B tier. The USP-45 is the 5.7 alternative that I prefer. It does 38 pen, equal to that of the Shrimp and one more than the 5.7, but its ammo does 66 damage as opposed to the 5.7's 49. This is significant because it means that 45 ACP AP is able to black arms and legs with a single bullet, and it's a lot easier to kill somebody if their knees don't exist anymore. That's an A tier pistol. The Blicky is not at all a serious weapon. It's a toy gun. It shoots discs that do 1 damage each. The only way I've ever seen a kill with this thing is people load into factory, flashbang some poor level 3 who downloaded the game 27 minutes ago, and then bully him while he's completely blind and has no clue what's happening. It's not a very effective weapon. So why am I putting it into S tier? Well, it's because the potential for shenanigans is incredible. You see, when you shoot the gun, it doesn't make that much noise, but the discs impact with the same noise as a regular bullet. So a dumb thing you can do is load into a nighttime raid, find a dark corner, and just start shooting it at people who walk past. They're gonna have no clue where the hell you are, and they're going to assume they are being lit up, and you get to watch them panic over what are essentially Nerf darts. They're probably not gonna find you, but even if they do, they are going to be incredibly confused. Psychological damage might not show up on the end raid screen, but it burns a far deeper hole in the human mind. S tier. The RSH-12 is Schrodinger's gun. It's simultaneously a meme cannon that no one takes seriously, and terrifying in the right hands. It's also really good at punishing overconfident players because they see it and think, oh look, an easy kill, he's using a pistol. And then very suddenly, their lungs are no longer occupying the same grid coordinates as the rest of their body. PS-12B does not care what it's delivered from, it will still hit like a freight train. This is an S-tier hand cannon. Unfortunately, I cannot say the same for the Desert Eagle. Every time I have used the Deagle, it has let me down spectacularly. The recoil impulse and the camera shake are weird, and I swear to God, this thing does not shoot straight. It is less reliable than partners in school group projects, and I hate it. I am banishing it to the depths of F tier. Ah, ye old faithful blunderbuss. The sawed-off is the silliest you can get in Escape from Tarkov without it people questioning your mental capacity. Sure, the Blicky is funny, but the sawed-off is funny and it can actually kill people. Load 2 shells of Magnum Buck into it, put it on double tap, and you have created the Amputator, Muncher of Legs. Running a sawed-off on its own is a good time, but there is nothing better than carrying it along with a legit kit and then whipping it out right at the end of a fight. Imagine you're fighting somebody and you both run out of ammo. While he's busy pressing R trying to reload his gun, you double tap 1, whip out this little boomstick, and hit him with one of the most disrespectful finishers of all time. It's a fun gun. It's going into S tier. And every other pistol can go into C tier because they're unremarkable and I have nothing to say about them. If you want a reliable sidearm, just use a USP or a 5.7. Those 2 pistols will be able to supplement any rifle you gamers want to carry. My channel sponsor GamerSupps just launched a brand new shaker cup, and this one might not even disappoint my father. It's available for a limited time only, can be found using the link below, and code LAVIVI will get you 10% off your order. While you're there, you can check out their other stuff, including other shaker cups, including normal ones, but mostly energy drinks. Clean caffeine, tastes good, 40 cents per serving, and again, code LAVIVI will get you 10% off anything you order. Anyways, on to shotguns. Then there's the sawed-off's bigger brother, the full-length double barrel. Unfortunately, it's just not as funny as the sawed-off and suffers from the fact that it takes up a main weapon slot, not your pistol slot, so carrying one along with you just isn't as viable, and as a standalone weapon, it's pretty bad. No. If you see this thing, someone is definitely memeing and they have 2 full-length double barrels and a sawed-off for the triple double barrel kit. Is that funny? Sure, but I don't think it's as funny as the sawed-off. Therefore, I don't think the regular double barrel stands on its own two barrels. It's going into D tier. Then we have the Taz. The Taz is not a good weapon. It's F tier, it sucks. If you are trying to play seriously, nay, the Taz is a weapon for someone who wants to disrespect and humiliate their enemy. Why? Well, the Taz is unique in the fact that it's the only weapon in Escape from Tarkov that uses 20x70. This means that when a person sees that they have been killed by 20x70, there is no denial, there is no cope, there is no way for them to hide from the fact that they got dumpstered on by a piece of crap weapon. There is no faster way to tilt someone than to kill them with the Taz. The accusations come swiftly. While its capacity to deal damage in game is fairly limited, its capacity to deal psychological damage is unparalleled. That's an A tier gun, for the humiliation factor mostly. I've only ever seen the revolver shotty used by two groups of people. One is the weirdos who load it up with Magnum Buck because it has a tight spread and then try to snipe people out to 50 yards. The viability of this strategy is questionable at best. The other group of people are cowboy loadouts. For the cowboy loadout, I will give it D tier. Otherwise, not a great gun. The MP18 is a seriously useful tool. Now, on the one hand, it's a meme cannon because it's a single shot rifle. If you miss your shot, you just kind of die. But this elevated risk makes those shots that much more satisfying. It's also really funny to drop meta slaves with the Dollar Tree paddle. That being said, it's unironically fantastic for people who hate the setup quest. I got a majority of my kills with this thing, and it made that quest a lot less frustrating. So for that reason, I'm putting it into S tier. It's fantastic for both trolling and serious gameplay. The pump actions in Tarkov are basically never used. They shoot slow, and they aren't that much cheaper than these semi-auto shotguns that are just better in every way. They don't have much LARP potential, and even as a guy who loves to give every weapon its time in the sun, I have never found a use case for these, so I'm putting all three into F tier. The MP153 and 155 are practically the same weapon. One has better recoil and one has better ergo. They shoot real fast and hurt real bad. Using one of these practically guarantees a kill against a PMC if you are in a building. Even as a group, the strategy for fighting these things is pretty much just send in the sacrificial lamb, and once he's filled with 8 shells of buckshot and flechette, have everybody else jump the bastard. If I'm playing as a solo and I'm approaching like dorms or something and I hear a semi-auto shotgun inside, I am leaving. That is not worth it. They're going into A tier. The M3 has some issues. It shoots too slow to reliably shred through armor with Piranha and Flechette. It does have a weird niche with Magnum Buck. Because it has a slower rate of fire, Magnum Buckshot is slightly more controllable through it, but that's a bit of a stretch. It's a fun weapon, and it's still a 12-gauge semi-automatic shotgun. It's just not as good as the 153 or 155, so I'm putting it into B tier. The Saiga 12 is the best shotgun and one of the just best weapons in the game, period. You can build a meta Saiga 12 for 120,000 rubles and it will compete with the best kits in the game. No matter how fast you click, because it's semi-automatic, the recoil doesn't move it that much, so someone could be out at 50 yards and you can spam shells at them. And while it might not kill them, it ain't gonna tickle either. You can absolutely bully squads with the 20 rounders, or you could take the 10 rounders if you don't want to spend the extra money, and you'll still get a lot done. High rate of fire, quick reload, no recoil, cheap, what else do you want? It's an S tier weapon. And of course we have the full auto Saiga 12, or as I like to call it, the evil ass shotgun. It's exactly the same as the regular Saiga 12, except it's cheaper because the barter is typically like 110,000 rubles, and it comes with the 20 rounder already, so that's more money saved. On full auto, it does bounce quite a bit, so personally I would leave it on semi until you get inside a building or some other enclosed space, and then you can let it rip. Also going up into S tier. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said for our other automatic shotguns. First, the Gen 1 AA-12. The gun itself comes in at about 120,000 rubles, and it cannot be modded. You can't even put a sight on the darn thing. It has the ergo of a brick, bad recoil, slow rate of fire, and just can't compare to the Saiga 12 in any way. If you really want a sight, you can buy the Gen 2 AA-12. Unfortunately, it's going to be ludicrously overpriced. I think the barter typically hangs anywhere from 300 to 500,000 rubles, and all you get is a sight mount. And even then, the sight is mounted so high and so far back that it's just not great to use anyways. The only advantage they have over the Saigas, and the only unique thing about them, is that since they are open bolt in Tarkov, they cannot jam. So if you want full auto magnum buck, these are your two options. But I really don't think they're anything special. They're going into C tier. Moving on to SMGs, we have the Saiga 9. Yeah, no, it's not good. At like the very beginning of the wipe, it can be a fun plinker, but it's a semi-automatic 9mm in a game where 9mm is only really effective if you are dumping 30 rounds within 4 seconds. So you're probably not gonna have a great time. That's going into D tier. The STM is basically the exact same thing as the Saiga 9, except it has better ergonomics. Can it be fun to use? Yeah, maybe. Is that enough to save it from being a bad weapon? Nope. Going into D tier. Obviously for the PPSH, we have the Soviet Union meme, but other than that, I have never seen anyone use it in serious play. The 71 round Swarm of Angry Bees is kinda funny, kinda bad, mostly bad, going into D tier. The Keter is one of those weapons that's always had a die-hard fan base, and I've never really understood it. The Keter B, which is the suppressed variant, seems to be the most popular. Maybe they just wanted a budget-suppressed weapon? I mean, I like the aesthetic. It's a good aesthetic, but otherwise I am not a part of the Keter fan club. It's going into C tier. The UMP has very much fallen out of favor with the Tarkov community. It used to be ridiculously good when it came out, and then it got nerfed into the floor, and I don't think it's ever really recovered from that. 45 FMJ only has 25 pen now, so you need to buy a PMO. However, a PMO isn't available until substantially later in the wipe, and by then you have the 45 Vector, which is just better in every single way. Overall, the UMP is okay, but there's not much of a reason to use it. It's going into B tier. The PP-19 is an alright weapon. Its rate of fire isn't fantastic for a 9mm weapon, however, I just can't bring myself to hate this thing, and with the new mods that have been added for it, it's pretty cool. However, I must address a huge injustice, and that is the 50-round magazine for the PP-19 is 43,000 rubles from Skier. The MPX, which is just better in every single way, its 50-round magazines only cost 13,000 rubles from Mechanic. Why is Skier charging 3 times as much for an equivalent magazine in a worse weapon? Battle State, please fix. What is going on here? Otherwise, the PP-19 going into B tier. Speaking of another gun I can't bring myself to hate, we have the Standard Uzi. I want to love this thing, I really do. It's a cool gun. You can load up a 100-round magazine, which is stupid. It's open bolt, so it can't jam. There's so many cool things about it. It's just unfortunate that it sucks. The rate of fire, 600 rounds per minute, is not enough with 9mm. And even worse, you can barely put any decent sights on it. All they need to do to fix this weapon is give us a Picatinny riser that we can put a Monstrum 2X on. That would turn this thing into the headshot machine. As it stands though, it's C tier at best. The Standard Uzi, not great, but the Uzi Pro with its much higher rate of fire, good weapon, right? Well, yeah, but I hate it. The gun itself isn't all that bad, but the creatures that use this thing, oh my god. Test Drive Part 5 has ruined Factory. In any raid, there are at least 3 people using an Uzi Pro, and the bastards don't even move. They find a corner and they just dwell there. They have a cheap, easily replaceable weapon that can kill almost anything in the game, and yet they still refuse to move. The weapon is good, but I'm putting it into F out of spite. The MP9N is basically the exact same thing as the Uzi Pro, except it looks cooler and the people who use it move around and actually have balls. Also, I've been using this thing for like 3 years and I am loyal to my pixels, so the Uzi Pro can piss right off. This thing's going into A tier. The MP9 is a solid weapon, but it's just worse than the MP9N in basically every way, so it's gonna go into B tier. The MP5, particularly the MP5 SD, is a sexy little weapon that just feels good to use. Slap a Monstrum 2X on it and you have a headshot machine that is quiet and just looks good. I love this thing so much, it's going into A tier. The only reason I'm not putting it into S tier is because 9x19 PvP is 1,200 rubles per round, so it's a little cost prohibitive. If the MP5 is a successful college student who has a part-time job, pays taxes, and gets good grades, then the MP5K is the little brother that is unemployed, smokes crack, and fights random people in bars. It's a goofy little gun, but it's cheap, has a higher rate of fire at 900 rounds per minute, and has basically no recoil, even without a stock. It's severely underrated and it confuses the hell out of people. A-tier gun. The MPX is a solid weapon, and though I don't love it as much as the MP5, I have to commend its extreme modularity. It's probably the most modifiable weapon in the game. You have the turbo nub, the uncut, the mighty sun. The possibilities are endless with this thing. A-tier for performance and modularity, but the MP5 is cooler and I will fight and die on this hill. I don't know if this is a controversial take to have at this point, but I do not care for the Vector 9mm. Maybe it's too sweaty for my degenerate hipster hands, but I would rather have almost any other 9mm. Give me an MP5K with a 50 rounder and I will be a much happier person. Yeah, no, I'm putting this thing into B tier. It sucks the joy out of me. Now this is a weapon. The 45 Vector is massively underused, and that is a good thing because holy hell is it devastating. Remember, 45 ACP AP has 38 pen, which is okay, but does 66 damage, which is quite a bit. Now imagine that 1,200 of them are flying at you every minute. That's 20 a second. That's scary. The only drawback I can possibly think of is you can only buy 120 rounds of 45 AP per reset, and you will go through that in literally 10 seconds. So that is not enough. You're gonna have to stockpile ammo before you can run this thing. The MP7 is fairly on par with some of the other options I have listed. However, its ammo is what pushes it over the edge. 4.6 FMJ has 40 penetration and does 43 damage. When you compare this to 9x19 PBP, which has 39 penetration and does 44 damage, the difference is seemingly negligible until you realize that 4.6 FMJ is a third the cost. That's rather significant. MP7, solid gun, cheap ammo, S tier. The SR2M is very similar to the MP7, except you trade 10 rounds for higher damaging bullets. I do hate that I'm forced to use it with a mediocre sight on a map that I do not like for Test Drive Part 2. However, the weapon is good enough that I can't bring it down because of a quest I dislike. It's also going to be an S tier. The P90 is fantastic. It shoots incredibly flat, has a high rate of fire, high magazine capacity. The ammo is fairly inexpensive, and you don't have to jump through hoops in order to get it. But I can't put it in S tier because the magazines take 19 years to repack. Your PMC is able to reload belts for RPDs and M60s faster than he can funnel bullets into these magazines. So unless you want to bring 7 magazines and 350 rounds of ammo into the raid, you're going to spend more than half of your time reloading those magazines. Still going to put it up in A tier though. Heading on over to Assault Carbines, both SKSs are fantastic early game blasters. Even without any mods, semi-auto weapons tend to not move around very much, so they are very controllable. You can't buy PS ammo early on, but you come across it often enough to keep these things fed in the early wipe where they will absolutely carry you. B tier. The VPO 136 is just a slightly better SKS. It's got better modularity and a faster reload time. B tier. The VPO 209 used to be a favored meme blaster of mine, but now that 366 APM is a craft only at workbench level 3, what's the point, man? You cannot convince me that APM should be a craft only when PS12B can just be bought from Prop War. PS12B is significantly better and can be shot through a better gun. Why is it just available for purchase, but APM isn't? Just put APM back on Mechanic 3. It wasn't that good in the beginning. It's still not great now. It's just a funny thing for funny people. That being said, the VPO 209 is a good suppressed DMR for the first week of wipe. You can get the suppressor from Skier, and you can get EKO rounds with 30 pen from Jaeger level 2. Again, this is good for about 1 week, and then it immediately becomes terrible. So yeah, this gun is going into D tier. The Vepr Hunter. Back in the day, this thing was a very solid rat cannon, but that was a different time. In that era, your scav could spawn with an M700 that was loaded with M61. You would extract, load the M61 into this thing, and just win. It was a stupidly powerful kit back in the day, but nowadays you will unlock the SR25 and other better 308s long before you even have good ammo to feed them. So there's not much of a point in using this thing. It's going into C tier. The RFB is practically identical to the VPO 101. It was really good for a time, But again, nowadays you just unlock better options before you even get the ammo you need, so I don't see a reason to use it. C tier. Much like the UMP, the SVT-40 was disgustingly, brokenly overpowered when it dropped, and then it got nerfed into the floor, and it hasn't really recovered since. The sights aren't great, and while the recoil is manageable, if you try to fire quickly at all, you can't see a damn thing. Ultimately, I'm just left asking, why wouldn't you use an SKS or a VPO-136? They're more consistent and more user-friendly. This thing is a C tier weapon. Actually, just kind of terrifying. 750 rounds per minute of 7.62x54R, and it's fairly easy to control. Also, the barter for this thing is pretty cheap. It's like 70,000 rubles. Yeah, that's an S tier blaster right there. I love the ADAR. It's a flat shooter no matter what, but it's also really easy to modify to over 100 ergonomics, even with a suppressor. That being said, M855A1 is kind of harder to stockpile nowadays, so a majority of the time you'll be using M856A1. Now this can work, but M856A1 is definitely better out of a fully automatic system, so I can't put the ADAR any higher than B tier. The TX15 is practically identical to the ADAR 15, so much so that there's really no reason to use it at all unless you want to flex on the pores, which I can respect. Also gonna go into B tier. If you can stomach not having a suppressor, then the SAG 545 is just a better ADAR. You can easily get it to over 100 ergo, but its main advantage is its ammo. 545 ammo is literally everywhere in Tarkov. I swear the Tooth Fairy was giving this stuff out, so it's really easy to stockpile good ammo like 7N40, BP, or even BS. Solid ammo, snappy ergo, low recoil. The SAG 545 is a fantastic tapper. A tier. I have nothing to say about the VSK or 9A91 other than they suck and I hate them. I don't know how you make a 9x39 suppressed, relatively inexpensive, available at the beginning of the wipe, fully modified weapon suck, but somehow they managed. Yeah, these things are terrible. They're going into F tier. SR3M. It's a good weapon. Looks good, feels good. It's basically a basier AS Val. It's a total crutch in arena. In main game, it's solid. Yeah, it's S tier. I feel like I need to make a disclaimer for the assault rifles because almost every single assault rifle in the game is at least viable. For the assault rifles, C tier means that they are competent, but I prefer other options. The standard AK-74 is mediocre all the way around. It doesn't do anything special. The only reason I would use this is if I had a stockpile of 545 I needed to get rid of, and for whatever reason couldn't get my hands on an AK-12. Viable, but other options will serve you better. C tier. The AK-74U is very similar to the AK-74, except it's cheaper, available from tier 1 traders, and absolutely carries people through the early wipe. Seriously, for me, from level 0 to 25, this thing is my baby. Once I get access to tier 2 and 3 traders though, it's time to switch things up. This thing is going into C tier. If you want an AK chambered in 545 for serious play, then the AK-12 is your best bet. I'm not sure if the jump from 650 rounds per minute to 700 is significant, but it definitely feels a lot better. A tier option, and pretty much the only way to make 545 a competitively viable round. 7.62 is kind of in a weird position right now because it doesn't really distinguish itself all that much. The AKM is a solid choice for that weird point in the wipe where 7.62 PS ammo is the best you can get, but like many other weapons, it gets outclassed very quickly. That being said, the AKM can be modded with tan furniture, turning it into one of the sexiest looking guns in the game, and I like it a lot for that. Even so, it's going into B tier. The AK-103 is functionally very similar to the AKM, however I wanted to talk about it separately because the people who use the AK-103 are some of the most loyal bastards in existence. They remember the days where this was the best 7.62x39 option and one of the best weapons in Escape from Tarkov in general. That was 4 years ago, so the fact that they are still loyal to this thing, they might as well slap a damn ring on it. Still B tier, but I can respect the commitment. The Mutant has never been one of my favorites, but nowadays it's just kinda whack. The recoil is wacky, the gun just isn't as competitive as it used to be, and honestly I don't think that the performance justifies the price. PP ammo is good, but it's not extraordinary, and with the amount of M61 floating around this wipe, 7.62 weapons just don't do enough to distinguish themselves, even with BP ammo. I'm putting the mutant into B tier. The RD-704 is the other tryhard 7.62 option that still, the people who choose to use it over the mutant either are willing to sacrifice 50 rounds per minute in order to get better ergonomics and recoil, or they think the meta mutant with the RSAS Vanguard is ugly as hell and refuse to use it out of principle. The gun is good, but again, like all other 7.62 options, it's just not in the best spot right now. I'm putting it in B tier. I feel like you either absolutely love the AK-101 and 102 or think so little of them that you forget they exist. Personally, I do like them. However, you need M855A1 in order for them to be effective. Other 5.56 rifles shoot fast enough that M856A1 can do the job, but the AK-101 and 102 really benefit from the extra penetration. Because of their slower rate of fire, I don't think they're as good as the M4 or even the G36, and I'm gonna put them into B tier. The Velociraptor is a gun that exists. The rate of fire is slow and the recoil is wonky, and personally, I just don't like it that much. Its only redeeming factor in my eyes is that it's a complete package. You buy it and out the door you go. You don't need to do anything to it. If you have a friend who takes 1,000 years to make a kit, then forcing them to use this might save you time. I, however, refuse to waste my CBJ on this thing and will be sticking to my MCX. It's going into D tier. If they want to make it more viable, change the stock and put it on tier 2 skier. That's where it belongs. The Ash-12 is the one weapon that I will not hear anybody's arguments against. It clamps like thunder, hits like a big rig, and feels damn good to use. That being said, if you put a suppressor on this thing, I personally hate you. Let the bastard roar. It's going into S tier. The Val is really good, but obtaining ammo for it is a bit rough. SPP doesn't cut it. It claims to have 35 pen. I don't believe it. I have dumped 30 rounds into people and watched them walk away like I sprayed them with the Super Soaker. At the bare minimum, you need PAB 9, which is fairly solid, but it's a craft only. SP6 turns this thing into a terrifying weapon of mass destruction, but unfortunately, you need to complete capturing outposts in order to purchase it. Capturing outposts is a very annoying quest, and I just pretend it doesn't exist because I don't feel like doing it. And for anyone who says you can buy SP6 off Ref, this is true. However, the fact that Ref sells high-tier ammo and high-tier armor that can only be purchased from him at high tiers and nowhere else is such an extreme level of bullshit that I refuse to acknowledge it in any of my rankings. If no one else sells high pen ammo or tier 6 armor plates, then he shouldn't either. That being said, the AS Val is still incredibly good when you do give it ammo, so it's going into S tier. The MCX is one of my favorite guns in the game. CBJ has comparable penetration to M855A1, but does more damage, and even better, you don't have to jump through any hoops in order to purchase it. If you get Peacekeeper 4, you have it. No quest, no craft, no nothing. This basically means you have a higher damaging, more accessible M4. The recoil does bounce around a bit more than your M4, so a 1x or a 2x are preferred. However, that is a trade-off that I can accept. I'm putting this thing into S tier. The M4 is a solid choice. M855A1 is a bit more of a pain to acquire, but once you can craft it, you're having a good time. I will take this time to climb up on my soapbox once more and say that M855A1 should not be a craft only. Put it back on traders. The same thing with 545 BP. The issue is you have to decide whether you want to craft M855A1 or 545 BP, or instead you could craft the much better M61. When confronted with this choice, people will always go for M61. The solution to this problem is let them craft M61 and put M855A1 and 545 BP back on traders so that you can stockpile both at once. Then maybe 308 meta wouldn't be so damn prevalent this wipe. Ammo tangent aside, the M4 is still solid, it's going into A tier. Then there's the HK416, of which I've always held the opinion that the HK is just a slightly better yet far costlier M4, and I don't really think that that price justifies the small boost in performance. However, if you do, fair enough, it's gonna go right alongside the M4 in A tier. The G36 is a solid weapon, but it fills a very weird niche. Modding it out is just a bit too expensive to the point where you're better off just purchasing and modding out an M4, and because of this weird limbo position, the only people who really use it are those who like its look. Is what I would have said until I realized that if you purchase the stock one, the ugly full-length one that's like 35,000 rubles on the flea market, and all you do is swap out the top rail and put on a sight, you have one of the best budget weapons in the entire game. Solid ergo, it doesn't have any recoil whatsoever. It's genuinely insane for the price. I can't put it into A tier because it is just inferior to the M4, so it is going to be the only weapon on this tier list that goes between the two tiers. We're putting it between A and B tier. The AUG is a great budget option, especially early on if you want a suppressed 5.56 that isn't too expensive. This is your best bet. B tier. The 5.56 MDR is just a worse option than the AUG, both as a budget weapon and a weapon in general. It shreds during the early wipe when it's the only thing that you have in your stash, but otherwise, I don't see a reason at all to use this. I'm putting it in C tier. If I haven't pissed anyone off yet, I'm certainly going to now. I have always been a D1 7.62 MDR hater, even back in the time when it was the best weapon in the game. So now that its recoil has been nerfed to the point where it's not that great to use anymore, I could not be more happy. It's still very effective up close, and yes, you can still tap with it in range, but really the only thing it has going for it over other 308 options is its ergonomics are pretty good, and even then, I would rather just have an RSAS. I'm putting it into B tier. The cancellation continues with the MCX Spear. It was really good for a while, but now that M61 is easily craftable, and the dominance of SIG Hybrid is much less firm. Also, it's too sweaty, and I don't like it for that reason. C tier. The Scar L is overpriced for what it offers. In addition, it takes up far too much of my freaking screen. If 60% of the pixels on the right side of your monitor are just dead, then this is the weapon for you, because you weren't gonna see anything over there anyways. If I want a slow-firing 5.56, I'll use the AK-101. This thing's going into C tier. The Scar H is a full-auto 308 weapon, and is therefore very solid. However, again, takes up too much of my screen, C tier. The X17 is literally just a better Scar H, and I feel like I would get skinned alive by the community if I put this thing too low, so we'll put it into A tier to appease the masses. My baby, however, is the SA-58. I don't want to hear anything about the juice cannon being washed or not as good. No, it is still a fantastic lead dispensing device. I love the way it looks, love the way it feels, and I love the nostalgia it gives me for old Tarkov. Much like the Ash 12, running this thing suppressed is an injustice. S tier gun. Now onto a category that I feel uniquely qualified to talk about, LMGs. The RPK-16 is pretty much just a slightly different AK-74. Ranking it alongside the rest of these LMGs doesn't quite feel right, and its performance is fairly equivalent to that of a regular AK-74, so it's gonna go into C tier. The standard RPD is really good in confined spaces. I won't go into too much detail about the RPD that only has iron sights because a full-length video is coming on it probably next week. But if you aren't able to get within 15 meters of somebody, they don't stand a chance. Unfortunately, getting that close is a rough time, and beyond that range, you're really not doing a whole lot with those iron sights, so I can't put it any higher than C tier. The RPDN is the same as the RPD, except the sight is no longer an issue. You can now effectively suppress and kill people out to 100 meters. I unironically think this is one of the best 7.62 weapons in the game right now. Just hold down the trigger and you'll win. A tier. The PKM and PKP are simultaneously devastating and hilarious. I had a 4-man where we all ran one of these on interchange, and good God, Killa did not stand a chance. The obvious thing holding them back is they're unobtainium. You can't get your hands on them. The PKP can only be found on Carbines, and the PKM, while you can trade for it, in order to unlock that trade, you have to complete Gunsmith Part 25, which again requires you to get a PKP from Carbines. The other issue with them is their weight. They are freaking heavy. If you are using them, you better be showing up to have a good time because they are so clunky and cumbersome that using them in serious gameplay is borderline impossible. If they were easier to get, I would put them both in A. However, as they stand, I'm putting them both into B tier. I don't think I need to say much here, as my last video, 2 months ago, was all about the M60. Unironically, one of the best long-range, short-range, medium-range, all day, all problem-solving devices you can get your hands on. It is an S-tier weapon and a damn good time. I view the RSAS SR25 and G28 as basically identical. If you twisted my arm and forced me to make a distinction, I would say that the RSAS feels the best loud, the G28 feels the best suppressed, and the SR25 could swing either way. The SR25 doesn't feel quite as good as the other two, but it's by a small degree, and it's still a fantastic weapon. They all shoot 308, they all have barely any recoil, and they will kill whatever you need them to. S-tier trio right here. Unfortunately, the disappointment child did not get invited to the party. The M1A. What the hell happened to this thing, man? This used to be my absolute favorite weapon in the game. I remember the days when you could mod this to have 36 vertical recoil and 64 horizontal recoil. Nowadays, though, even fully modded, the shooting just doesn't feel good. All the other DMRs shoot fairly consistently, but the M1A, you will have 2 shots that are kind of in the same spot. And then on the 3rd shot, it'll get yanked all the way to the left or all the way to the right. It's like some troglodyte is using a shepherd's cane and just whipping the barrel to the side. I banish it to F tier for both the emotional damage it has caused me and also the fact that it just kind of sucks. The VSS is effectively just a less customizable AS-Val, throw it up into S tier. The SVD. I like the SVD, I want to put it in S tier, but getting good ammo for it is just a bit too difficult. You can craft 7.62x54 BT, however, it takes like 3 hours to craft 50 bullets, and I really don't feel like waiting 9 hours to run 1 raid with an SVD kit. Come on, game. As it is, we're stuck with PS and T46, which are pretty good, but don't quite compare to, again, the readily available M61. Still an A-tier weapon, though. The Mjolnir is weird. Personally, I don't see much of a reason to run it unless you have 338 AP. For whatever reason, 338 FMJ just doesn't kill people sometimes, and even if I do have AP ammo, I would rather load it into a bolt action. Honestly, I don't really like the Mjolnir. It just doesn't feel consistent at all. I'm putting it into B tier. Also, I know it isn't in the game yet, but I will be ranking the AK-50 because it's being showed off on Twitter. This thing is not at all going to be a serious weapon. I imagine it will be very difficult to get both the gun and the ammo. I imagine it will be heavy. However, it's shooting 50 BMG, which is hilarious. So I cannot wait to meme with this thing, putting it into A tier. Starting off the bolt actions and the bolt action adjacents, we have the Mosin. The Mosin is a tool. It doesn't do anything fancy and it isn't the most satisfying, but it's reliable and it hits hard. There's a reason it's been used in basically every war since 1895. Unfortunately, it's a bolt action developed in 1895, and firearms technology has somewhat progressed in that time, so bolt actions in general in Escape from Tarkov are just completely outclassed. Sniping is what they're best at. The Mosin is the hardest to get into a sniping configuration. C tier. Just like the Mosin, the VPO-215 is a tool. One that I use almost exclusively to get Tarkov Shooter Part 3 done, and then I never touch the weapon again. It has a fast reload and one of the fastest cycle speeds in the game. Unfortunately, APM, the best ammo for it, has a accuracy debuff and flies very slowly, so it's not great for sniping. The gun is good for when you need to kill people up close with a bolt action for an annoying quest, but it's not really great for anything else. The SV98 is really nice because you get T46M and its 41 penetration as early as level 26. For the M700 or any 308 bolt actions, you don't get M80 until level 37, and firing BCP FMJ out of a bolt action is like throwing a rock at a moose. You're gonna have a bad day. The SV98 is a fine stopgap option until you get better ammo for 308s, and even then, it's still fairly solid, B tier. The biggest advantage of the M700 is its modularity. You can mod this thing into whatever you want it to be. You can mod this thing to weigh half as much as the other rifles, you can mod it to have over 100 ergo, whatever you want to do. It looks good, it feels good, A tier. The DVL-10 is A tier primarily because of the sound it makes. The wet slap is hilarious and always satisfying to get a kill with. If you run this weapon without the integral suppressor, I think you belong on a terror watch list. The T5000 is fine, but it's freaking heavy. I don't know what tungsten alloy they made this thing out of, but it's heavier than the AXMC. Why? The only real advantage this thing has is the scope doesn't move much when you cycle the bolt, meaning you can still kind of see your target even as you reload. However, with a bolt action rifle, if you miss that first shot, you're probably not going to get another one unless your enemy is an idiot. So I don't know how much this is really going to help you. C tier. The AXMC is heavy, unwieldy, and takes forever to aim down sights. Its ergonomics are so terrible that you're practically forced to just lie prone with it. However, it can kill a building. A tier. The Seiko TRG is a fantastic weapon because it has the same building killing potential as the AXMC. However, you can actually mod it for ergonomics. With the short barrel and short handguard, it has 49 ergonomics, which is significantly better than the AXMC's 27. The only knock against it is the quest to obtain it requires you to kill 50 PMCs from over 40 meters away using bolt-action rifles while using either a thermal or night scope. This isn't a difficult quest, but it requires you to play in a very specific way for an extended period of time, which sucks. They could have made it 10 PMCs or 15. 50 is a little excessive. Still an S tier gun though. Then there's the teased upcoming lever action rifle. Automatic S tier. Holy hell, I have been asking for a lever action for so long. Supposedly, it's going to be a Marlin MXLR, which is chambered in 308. I am kind of conflicted on the ammo because on the one hand, it's cool that it's 308 and therefore will actually be fairly viable. On the other hand, it isn't my beloved medicine stick chambered in 4570 government. If a 4570 lever action is ever added to the game, then this one will probably be knocked down a tier. That being said, still a lever action, still really want to get my hands on it, S tier. Finally, we have the launchers, the M32 grenade launcher. It can fire 6 times before reloading. It's absolutely devastating in combat. Or at least it would be if people actually took it out of their hideouts for once instead of leaving it on their weapon rack so they can show it off in their profile. This thing is the ultimate safe queen in Escape from Tarkov, never leaves the hideout, still S tier. Then there's the FN-40, or as I like to call it, the disappointment cannon. Look, it's a grenade launcher. Grenade launchers are good, but this one's a single shot grenade launcher, and when Big Pipe is using it, he's able to reload and fire the damn thing so fast that I get baited into thinking I have an M32, I kill him, and then find this thing. Big Pipe and his reload speed can go straight to hell, and this thing can go straight to F tier. Finally, we have the RSHG, or the Tube. This thing is wildly inconsistent. I have seen people wear one in the teeth and live, and then I have seen it kill everybody in a 10-meter radius. If you enjoy gambling with high explosives, this is the weapon for you. Also, Backblast as a mechanic will never not be funny, B tier. And that'll about do it. Hopefully the balancing changes that come in like a month don't completely undo the effort of this long freaking video. But they did say that the recoil system is about where they want it, so I don't think things will change too much. Once again, GamerSupps just dropped some new stuff, so if you're at all interested, be sure to head over there, and again, code Lofive will get you 10% off. There won't be a stream after this video, I know, I'm sorry. Finals are next week, so I am nose to the grindstone right now, stressing out, trying to not fail my tests. But next week, there should hopefully be a stream following the video because I will be done with school and free. I'm not sure if the video will be uploaded on Friday or Saturday. Time will tell. Otherwise, just thank you so much for watching, especially all the way to the end of what I'm sure is a fairly long video. It took me 2 hours to record. And I hope you enjoyed.